The qualifications for self-government in society are not innate. They are the result of habit and long training. The question is, who's doing the training? I'm Hayden Ludwig, and this is Restoration Spotlight. Thomas Jefferson's words still ring true more than 2 centuries after he spoke them. A people ignorant of themselves can never sustain liberty. Today, more than 15% of people living in the United States were born abroad, the highest share in our history, higher even than a century ago. The same problem confronts us now. How do we forge them into Americans equipped with the civic knowledge needed to keep the torch of liberty burning for generations? The answer is in preparing them for American citizenship. Holding the torch is my colleague Vanessa Faura, Program Director for the Restoration of America Foundation. Now, Vanessa, tell us how you're helping them fulfill that dream of becoming an American citizen.
Yeah, so we have a citizenship education program called Citizenship Masterclass that's designed for lawful permanent residents, the folks in the country legally that are preparing for their naturalization civics test. We help them better prepare by covering the U.S. history and the civics portion of their naturalization process and the interview. One of the top reasons for why a lot of these lawful permanent residents, millions of them, that do not proceed with applying for naturalization, it's because they find the civics portion of the naturalization process very daunting. So we created a program with a curriculum where we're not just educating them and teaching them about U.S. history and civics, but most importantly, Hayden, throughout the program, we're emphasizing our founding principles, discussing obviously our U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the core values of responsible citizenship.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly important. It's not just a box you tick. It's a change in the way of life, becoming an American. One of the things that's interesting about our own time is that we actually have the largest percentage of foreign-born people living in the United States, both naturalized citizens and non-citizens, legal and illegal, of any time, greater even than a century ago. And the reason we were able to have so much success swallowing such a percentage of non-citizens 100 years ago is because we were assimilating them into the American way of life. So that's a tradition it sounds like you've stepped into.
Definitely, and it's very much needed. The folks that we're helping and that are coming through our program are so grateful after they're done, they complete the program, because there is a lot of things that they ignored. When they come into the country, they come in, obviously, seeking opportunity and prosperity. And they know we talk a lot during the program, we talk a lot about the what and the how. But the why, it's never talked about once the immigrants come into the country. So what is the what? It's the citizenship, right? Their ultimate goal is to become an American citizen. So once they're in the country legally, one of the main goals for every lawful permanent resident is to naturalize as an American citizen. So we know what that is, and we know how to pursue citizenship, and we know exactly what the steps to take to go through the naturalization process. But no one ever talks to lawful permanent residents about the why. Why do you want to become an American? And the overarching question, and we bring this up throughout the program, is what makes us Americans? What makes the United States the greatest nation on earth? And as you and I know, the principal reason is our U.S. Constitution. So we dive into the why, but not the why you want to become an American, which, as we all know, opportunity, prosperity, and having a better life in this country. But we dive into the real why. Why do we have the freedoms and liberties that you so much desired when you were back in your country and left everything behind, to begin with? Why is that possible in America? So once they get, a good dose of those very founding principles that made America the greatest nation on earth, it's when, it's more like an aha moment and a heart touching moment for them.
Yeah, and I appreciate what's inherent in what you just said is an understanding that people are not born abroad with an understanding of what makes the United States great, what separates it from all the other nations of the earth. That's something we have to teach our children. We have to teach immigrants who come here. Let's contrast that a little bit with what the progressive left does. The progressive left wants everybody to come into the United States whenever they want to, asking no questions about the interest of the United States, and coming here illegally too, granting them blanket amnesty. And if you get citizenship, it's not about assimilating you into the United States and its culture and its beliefs and everything that makes us unique. It's about registering you to vote so you can cast a ballot for the Democrat candidate in your district. So give us how you see it, the two contrasts between what you're attempting to do versus what the radical left wants to do.
Sure. So we're trying to inform this growing population as much as we can on the very founding principles that made America the greatest, right? And the left, as we know it, to them, the less they know, the less informed they are, the better for them because they can manipulate them and message to them in the most simplest way with honestly with a lot of lies, and they fall for it because they don't understand what really gave this nation the freedoms, right? They don't understand the very principles that provide every single American, everyone in this country, the rights, the rights that actually come with responsibilities. So, the left has done a great job in building a simple message to the immigrant community based on, the assumption that they care, but they really don't. And they've shown that, over and over again with the policies that the very immigrants are completely against, only if they knew more about it, right? They're so not informed about the policies that the left is trying to push over and over again, and that they get away with a lot of the times. The very same policies that the left in our native countries push that actually makes us want to leave. And we do. We leave our nations, our native countries, because of the same kind of policies that the left here in the United States are trying to push.
It's a great observation. Wrapped up in all of this is not just what makes the United States special, but even the concept of citizenship. A lot of people, if you're coming from communist China, for instance, you're not a true citizen. You're really a subject of the government. And yet the idea of citizenship, somebody who's accountable but also accountable to, right, the basic unit of our society, a free agent within a country who gives his fealty to the government and the government his fealty back to the citizen, that's a unique Western concept. You can even see this back 100 years ago. People were observing the Democratic Party is the party largely of immigrants, even in the early 1900s, because they're taking advantage of people coming from unfree societies like Russia and Germany, who the first thing they do after getting off the boat from Ellis Island is sell their vote to the local Democrat Party machine at Tammany Hall in New York. Clearly, the way to overcome that back then as today is teaching them, no, you have rights, but also responsibilities, and that's a dangerous thing. So what's your experience when people go through this class? What's eye-opening to them, maybe when they're looking at how the left treats them versus how you treat them?
Yeah, so they understand, first of all, once they have a good sense of what the Constitution, the document that was crafted so perfectly by our founding fathers, once they have a good sense of what it covers, and one of the things that really that we dive into that really touches them, and it creates this all kinds of different discussions because they compare it to their own native countries, is the branches of government, right? How
Interesting.
check and balances, it's a huge deal to them because it is what it makes America so great and what they don't have in their own native countries. So just diving into the Constitution and what that is and how it was crafted, and also diving into the biblical ideals that influenced our U.S. Constitution, and the another sacred document as the Declaration of Independence. They are very much touched because that's when everything kind of comes together, and then they start diving into comparing the current form of government, structure of government of the U.S. to their native countries, which obviously they haven't. It hasn't worked at all. So they learn about how the bigger the government, the less power to the people, and how checks and balances is really what has kept this country to live up to its own ideals.
So, what's the problem if you don't do this? Or maybe another way to ask the question is, if the left represents multiculturalism, you come here, but you remain as you are. You become this little enclave of Somali or Ugandan or Chinese culture within a whole bunch of other cultures. That's the opposite of assimilation. What's the problem if we go that route, as opposed to the work that you've embarked on?
Yeah, there's an array of problems with that. Part of the becoming an American citizen is going through that assimilation process, right? You have to want to be an American, but that comes with a lot of responsibilities. And if we're not teaching what it takes to be an actual American, there's not a sense of belonging to this nation. There's no sense of identity. It creates resentment on the immigrant community because they feel like they are second-class citizens, even if they become an American citizen. When they don't understand the very ideals and the values and principles that made this country to what it is today and why they came here to begin with, they built into this sense of I'm a second-class citizen.
Interesting.
I'm not good enough. And when that happens, they're easy to be preyed on by the left, and it's happened for decades. My dad, my family, Hayden, all my family, when we came to the U.S., we were, it was a huge milestone. We one of our major goals in life was to come to the U.S., and we came in legally. It took 7 years for my parents to go through the process in Peru, and it took all of their savings so that we can come in to the country legally. So once we were here, we didn't know that we didn't know. And that is the case with most immigrants. Once, I was able to study and read some stuff, and just having that willpower to want to learn more, I fell in love with what we know. It's the greatest story in history. It's the greatest story in the world is the American history. And little by little, I started diving into more information about America, the structure of government, and why that is so important. And it changed the trajectory of our personal and professional lives. And the more education, the more information, the better. Because when we don't provide that to the immigrants in the country, they get preyed on so easily by the left, and they begin with having this built-in this sense of victimhood, right? They now we are the victims because we're not assimilated to the country, so we don't have a sense of belonging. It, is
Yes.
it really? Are we really Americans? And that's how we tend to not only feel like victims, but we don't take action in becoming active members of our communities. And when we go out and vote, we're voting blindsided, not knowing that the enemy are the folks that we're voting for.
Given how clearly personal this is for you, having gone through that exact immigrant experience, isn't it remarkable that up until recently, nobody seems to have been doing this kind of civics course for people coming in exactly the way that you came in, with the same exact desire to be part of the fabric of this nation?
Right. Yes. And I am so happy that finally there is an organization that is taking this very seriously, because it's very much needed. You've mentioned 8 million lawful permanent residents currently in the country eligible for naturalization. There's over 13 million lawful permanent residents currently in the country. And yes, we have just a little bit over 8 million right now eligible for naturalization. The rest of them will eventually become eligible once they meet the 5-year period in the
That's
country
right.
as lawful permanent residents. So I say this because this is an ongoing thing. It's not going to stop, and no one is targeting this important growing population with the right education about American principles. One of the things that I always say, Hayden, is, there's no need to persuade this immigrant population. There's no need for that. We don't need to do that. We don't do that. We just teach them the truth. The truth that it's embedded in our U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and how that is, has been influenced by biblical ideals, right? And once they capture that, everything comes to make more sense, and then it instills in them a sense of belonging to this country. Now I'm going to become an American. Wow, it's a big deal. So instead of walking into the citizenship interview with a USCIS officer, memorizing or having memorized potentially, 30 to 40 questions. They give you, USCIS gives you a bank of 100 questions. They ask you 10 questions, 10 civics and his U.S. history questions. You're supposed to have 6 of them correctly so that you can pass the test. So they are so fearful of that portion of the civics test. So when they come in after they've taken our course, they come in empowered, knowing, the not just the history of the United States, but understanding what made America great to begin with. And once they understand those very basic principles, all of those questions become so natural to them to learn and understand. Right. So
Yes.
it's a big deal. It's a big deal for them.
So, Vanessa, recently, you brought this up already. The Trump administration is moving to alter the citizenship questionnaire, the test, rather. You've written on this recently for Restoration News and The American Spectator. Would you walk us through what those changes are and give us a little bit of advice that you would give to the Trump administration?
Sure. So now the citizenship test is changing back again. This is the 3rd or 4th time it's been changed. With the Trump administration, the first Trump administration was changed for a second time, and then the Biden administration changed it back to make it easier. And now the Trump administration is changing it back to make it more, according to the U.S. CIS director, harder. So they're doubling up on the questions. So instead of having asking 10 questions during the interview, they're asking 20. And in addition to that, they're also testing the language by providing a photo, and they have to describe it, which most of the folks already know some English, but basically they're making the test harder. And this is an issue. It's always been an issue because it doesn't matter if it's harder or easy. What we need to look into is that these questions is, again, a bank of 100 questions. Now they're going to have a bank of 128. And these questions is just basically to lawful permanent residents. It's all about memorizing, right? And kind of gathering the most common asked questions, gathering them, and trying to memorize and the questions and answers. So when they're walking into the USCIS office for their interview, they're very nervous, but it really doesn't mean anything to them. It's just like memorizing any other questions about, I don't know, a regular cook recipe, right? A kitchen
Yes,
recipe
right.
or whatever.
Or an SAT test. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So it doesn't have any meaning when the very same requirements of becoming a citizen, under our laws and regulations is like you must have an attachment to the U.S. Constitution. But obviously, how can you test that?
Right.
But we're not doing anything to prepare them in a way that they need to be prepared so that they have that sense of belonging to the United States, so that they understand that being an American, it's not only a privilege, it's a blessing, because it is. And that they need to understand that citizenship, it's more of a verb, right? It's something that it's not just who you are, that, yeah, you're an American citizen, but it comes with a lot of responsibility. So you have to be an active member in your community. And one of the ways to do that is through voting. So we're not teaching that. And that's not being taught by adding more questions or doubling up on the questions. What needs to be taught is what Restoration of America Foundation is doing. We're teaching principles and values, and we're teaching how how America became the greatest nation, and that's not something that is guaranteed. It can go away, if we're not paying attention and we're not being active members in this country. And also patriotism. We don't teach patriotism. We just tell them the truth, and that builds and gives, it starts building that sense of patriotism in them, which is key to becoming an American.
Yeah, if I may put it into different words, in other words, it's not that the impulse to make the test more rigorous is wrong. It's that the trait we're looking for in a potential citizen is not the ability to memorize questions. It's to have a real attachment and understanding and loyalty to the Constitution and the other founding documents, as well as all the other qualities that make us an American.
Exactly. Yes, that is it. I mean, the intentions are right on. And I've heard the USCIS director, talk about the importance of understanding and understanding our Constitution and our founding principles. But how are we making sure that's happening when we're only adding to a list of questions? Instead of 10, now we're having 20 questions. Now, This means that they're more nervous. And we talk to lawful permanent residents almost every day. They call us, they text us, they send questions. They want to be part of our program. We actually have a waiting list right now of almost 100 people just in North Carolina. And we don't have a set date just yet for the next citizenship class, which the first one was extremely successful. But these people are very worried and they're very concerned. So they're very nervous about whether they're going to be able to pass the test or not. And what they should be doing right now, it's basically understanding, the history and those sacred documents that built and created America.
So we may not have a date for the next one, but where can people go to sign up for this and learn all the details as they're announced?
They can send an email to info@ffroa.com. And they can also go to our website at ffroa.com.
So Vanessa, as we close out here, obviously we're colleagues, wonderful colleagues. Tell us more about Restoration of America Foundation.
Oh, we're doing amazing things, Hayden. We're doing several different educational programming at a national level. We have the Constitution Scholarship, where we're providing scholarships to students all over America, basically in the 50 states, where, they're also learning about our Constitution. They're taking a course through a partnership that we have with Hillsdale College. And we now have the Citizenship Masterclass that we're offering. It's in several states. We are doing a lot of research, serious research on topics that really matter to the American people, like the pro-life. We're working to strengthen our military. And so we have a lot on our plate right now, and it's very good, noble work that we're doing and getting achieved through the
Certainly foundation. Is. Vanessa, you're a true patriot. Thank you for all the work you're doing. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Hayden.
I'm Hayden Ludwig, and this is Restoration Spotlight, a project of Restoration News, your source of headline-smashing investigative journalism for the America First movement. Check us out at restoration-news.com. Until next time, stay vigilant and trust in God.